Victoria 3 is getting 7 more prestige goods added to the Charters of Commerce expansion in the upcoming 1.9.6 patch, which is set to release on Tuesday, July 8th. This brings the total number of prestige goods to 57. You can currently access the patch through the beta's functionality on Steam, but the generic prestige goods are not fully implemented yet. The patch notes are preliminary, so there may of course be a few changes before it fully releases on Tuesday. Before I go over the most interesting bits of the patch notes, let's take a look at the 7 prestige goods being added. 6 of these are generic goods that all countries will be able to produce by forming their associated companies. These are prestige versions of explosives, paper, grain, merchant marine, and most importantly the military goods, small arms, and artillery. I say important because the prestige military goods give combat bonuses scaled to the percentage of input goods your armies consume that are prestige variants. In the initial release of 1.9, only France, Germany, and the United States could produce military goods through the unique goods they received. The final new prestige good being added in this patch is a unique version of radios tied to a Dutch company. This company requires owning and incorporating either the Holland or Gelre estate to form. There is no generic radio prestige good variant currently in the game, so prestige radios can only be made by this Dutch company and the existing United States company that makes radiola radios. On to the patch notes, the biggest change is an additional bonus to prestige goods that are consumed by pops. Prestige goods will now give a standard of living bonus to pops that consume them, which scales based on the percentage of prestige goods that their expenditure goes to. As a reminder, prestige goods currently give a trade advantage, a throughput bonus when used as an input good, and acquire a larger percentage of demand compared to competing substitute goods. This new standard of living bonus is on top of that. Ports now produce a lot less infrastructure. On cargo port, they now give 2 infrastructure instead of 5, and it only goes up by 1 for each production method. To compensate a bit, they have added a small infrastructure bonus to coastal states. It looks like they are trying to make railway more important again, as you can delay railway for a long time in the current patch and just rely on port infrastructure. States now lose market access depending on occupation percentage, and become fully isolated when fully occupied. This might lead to longer wars having much worse consequences. Currently, devastation builds up in occupied states and when battles occur, but this new penalty would affect battlefield and occupied states much more quickly. For anyone interested in Nepal, there is big news as 3.5 million pops are being added to the country, giving you a lot more to work with if you want to play there. There are a ton of balance changes regarding treaties in this patch, which we'll see the effects of over time, and they have also added the ability to request the other country owe you an obligation as part of a treaty. Up until now, you could only offer to give them an obligation. There was apparently a bug preventing the AI from building trade centers in states that had none, which has now been fixed. A change for the meat haters out there, pops have an increased demand for the non-meat food substitutes, and both culture obsessions and prestige goods have a smaller effect on the proportion of food demand. They seem to have overcorrected the demand for meat and fish in the 1.9 patch, which could lead to pops only wanting to eat meat even when other substitutes were both available and much cheaper. These changes are to try and balance it better. Financial districts, manor houses, and company headquarters buildings now employ less people. Company headquarters buildings could end up employing entire states of pops in 1.9. Currently, the beta patch lowers employment to around 1/5 the previous levels. They have removed the birth rate penalty from having high population in a state compared to the arable land. And finally, the last thing I wanted to point out is a new 25% trade advantage for market capitals, so you'll want to move your market capital to the state with the most trade centers now. There are plenty more small changes to check out if you're interested, and a huge list of bug fixes, but those are the items that caught my eye. Thanks for watching, see y'all next time.